All right, and we are back. Another episode of Chasing 69, a New York Jets podcast. Teddy, episode 20. Doing this for 20 weeks now.
20, nice.
We are here one week into training camp. No, I milestones to me
25?
are like even 100, maybe.
Come on,
let's get to 100.
100.
Are we supposed to celebrate 25?
We gotta.
25's fine.
Yeah.
I guess so.
All right.
Every 25 and then every YouTube subscriber. So we're at 4 right now. So we can celebrate.
Let's
4.
bump that up to 5.
I'm assuming 2 of them are us. So
yeah, I think that's true.
So we got 2 we can
Good
celebrate.
for us.
But welcome in to another episode of Chasing 69. It is Thursday, August 4th. We are sitting here about a week into training camp, and we're just going to kind of go over news and notes from not just the Jets themselves this first week, but from around the league as well, too. Some early scheduling implications as well. Some big news coming around from a divisional rival as well, too. But before we get into all of that, make sure to follow us on Twitter at NYJ_chasing69. Same with the YouTube page, which Teddy gave me a good notice last week after we finished recording that something was wrong with the YouTube. It has officially been fixed. All of our episodes had not been just sitting in like a pending space.
Let's go.
Basically, what would happen is I would close out of iMovie before it like finished the export, because it would tell me that it was done, but then you need to wait for the second part. So I got all those up there. No understand what to do moving forward. Yeah, we're learning on the go, but we are here. Follow us there. Follow Teddy at Teddy Huncho, myself at Blake Andrew Pace. Make sure, by the way, also next Monday, back on the writing grind, Sports Illustrated for Jets Maven. So make sure to check out all of my work there.
Oh, hell yeah.
Teddy, how you doing? We were a week in now where football has been back and we haven't gotten any games, but it's got to be exciting.
Oh, yeah, it's exciting. I mean, today, August 4th, first Hall of Fame game, first preseason game. So that's cool. I'll probably watch that for like a drive or two.
You going to bet it?
No.
Me either.
I don't bet it's just stupid. Like why would you do that?
Hand up, I will not watch it.
Who's playing? Jaguars? Steelers? Something like that.
I think it is Jaguars. It is Jaguars, and I do believe it is Steelers. Jaguars. But like, I feel like
Jaguars Raiders.
Okay, for the last decade, and I can say decade maybe more like 5-6 years. I have not watched a single preseason game. It does not matter. It is just everybody getting in shape for the season. Now I will watch the Jets this preseason because we're doing this, and I'm sure there's going to be things that we'll want to talk about, but I don't watch the Colts preseason. I really do not pay attention to the games until the regular season starts. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously guys fighting for roster spots, things like that, but yeah. It is hard to just sit there and watch a game that means absolutely nothing, and that like all the guys we're excited to see are not going to be playing.
Right. It's the fact that now the league has also recognized, like, we don't have to pretend like these games matter for all of our starters. If your job is safe and maybe you're, maybe a little gimped into heading into the week, we're just not even going to put you on the field.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I'm surprised, or I'm interested to see what the Jets are going to do throughout their preseason, just because we're obviously taking this step back approach. We got a lot of guys who are coming off injury or have had injury history, and we're really trying to avoid that. And I mean, that's basically all training camp is which guys can get through healthy. So yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Football's back, but it's still a ways away, I'll say.
Yep. Exactly. Yep. And so that's why when we're getting into our conversations for today, there's not going to be anything riveting necessarily that we're going to discuss, but I think just a lot of information that we have been picking up, from Jets camp specifically. And like I said, where we're going to start things off with some news from early around the league as it pertains to the Jets. We're not going to go over like all the news that's going around in the league, but stuff that plays a role in the Jets' upcoming season or their future.
Yeah, man. Let's get into it.
All right into it. Awesome. So start around. Deshaun Watson has been handed out his official, I guess, recommended punishment. They are going with a 6-game suspension, which the NFL, as of yesterday, when you're hearing this today, when we're recording this, they are going for an even longer appeal. Teddy, I don't even want this to be a conversation around the Deshaun Watson situation. I think that we both agree that he has done some terrible things, and we'll let the punishment that they hand out hopefully speak for itself in terms of making sure that everybody is given the punishment and a fair punishment. But the implication is that Deshaun Watson will not be there week 2 against the New York Jets. And that means that Jacoby Brissett will instead be starting at quarterback, a guy I'm very familiar with. I'm sure most people are now, as he's had different stints as a starter before. But when we take a look and we say, hey, the Jets schedule really tough up front, this is one game where we can now officially say, we probably thought he wasn't going to be there, but now we can officially say we will not have Deshaun Watson going up against this Jets defense in week 2 of the NFL season at the very least. And it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll reiterate that it's what we expected, but now it's just official. Obviously, we're not going to talk about Deshaun Watson for any amount of time really, but he got 6 games. He'll probably get more. I think he should probably get more. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's awesome. I'm like definitely super amped about it. It's just in terms of like, oh, we don't have to play Deshaun Watson. Right. I guess I'm not, when I think about the starting the first 4 weeks against the AFC North, I'm not like as intimidated as maybe I should be. But when you think about a Browns led by Jacoby Brissett, who really, is what he is, we kind of know what to expect from him. And, you got the Steelers team with who knows who's going to be playing quarterback. There's some opportunity there for, the teams to not be as hot and for the Jets to get some wins. And also, like I keep saying, I think the Jets are going to be a lot better. So, it's cool. Deshaun Watson won't be there. We get to play against Jacoby Brissett week 2. Hopefully we can be 1-0 going into that, 2-0 leaving it. But yeah, I mean, not really much else to say.
Right. I feel like I'm more worried than you are, I guess, about the start of the schedule, just because of, especially I think, and this relates to something we were just talking about with the preseason being a little bit lighter, is teams aren't really going to have that. They're getting all the reps in this month, but we've started to see teams really take some time into the regular season to find their groove. And definitely. For a team, as we've talked about before, with yes, Zach Wilson is working with the same offensive coordinator as he was last year, but you've got new wide receivers in the game. You got new tight ends, a new running back, a new offensive lineman, Mekhi Becton coming back, a lot of new pieces on the defense. So they're tough opponents, and they're opponents that have also been consistent. 2 of the most consistent franchises in the last decade, almost back to the year 2000, are the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Very consistent. The Browns the last few years have been pretty much the same team. Obviously a big change at quarterback now, but good offensive line, good run game, good defense. And then Cincinnati, a lot of people, I feel like, despite them getting to the Super Bowl, people are a little bit down on them, whereas they really did upgrade, I would say, their team from where they were at the beginning of last season. And they got hot in December, and they rode that wave to the Super Bowl, but they beefed up the offensive line. So when I look at the schedule, I almost say it's not like it's 4 impossible teams, but it's just 4 well-built teams that are either consistent or better. So either way, it is nice to see that that it's such a weird way to angle it.
But it's like, it's what you want at the end of the day. From the
Jets' perspective, right? It is easier to play Jacoby Brissett than it is Deshaun Watson.
When we found out, whenever it was, and the schedule dropped, that we're going to be playing the Browns, like everyone's just, well, we probably didn't know Deshaun was on the Browns yet, but basically everyone's like, oh, hopefully it's early so that he'll be suspended. Do you think, like, what do you think about the Browns as a team? Like, let's say it's just Deshaun Watson all year. Like, are they one of the top tier AFC teams? Are they a contender for the Super Bowl? Is that how you see them with Deshaun Watson out there?
With this Deshaun Watson, like, to me, Deshaun, and it's so weird because obviously it seems like he has a lot of stuff that he needs to work out off the field. On the field, I mean, I feel like people are just down on him because the Texans got so bad there for a stretch, but he was looked at in that first stretch as like one of the next guys that's going to be there for 15 years. So I look at him as like one of the faces of football on the field. He's not one of them on the field. He's one of the better talents in the game.
Walking that tightrope.
Yeah, I know that it's such a weird line to walk. But you've got Amari Cooper in there now. They've got one of the better running games in football, one of the best offensive lines, a scary defense. They've drafted well. Stefanski's a good coach. if Deshaun Watson was there all 16 games, I would say that's at least one the division winner. I mean, if not a team that should push far in the AFC playoffs. Like that's such a huge upgrade. Not to shit on Baker Mayfield.
No, yeah.
But it's a huge upgrade.
And it's just interesting because, it's obviously better for the Jets that their backup quarterback is in, but you have a guy who's played in NFL games before, won NFL games before. And it's not like the Browns have been super reliant on a heavy pass game anyway.
No.
You know what I mean? They've definitely had games where they're just run. So it will be interesting to see what they're able to do in those games without Deshaun, just kind of defining their team. And that's why it'll still be a test for this Jets team for sure. Much more inexperienced, much more just new, needing a lot more to go their way.
The Browns have a strong defense regardless of whether Deshaun is out there or not. Right. So it's going to be a tough test. And I think that's one of the things with, I guess, all four teams on there. And you would say maybe not Cincinnati as much, but for an offense, and as we get into the Jets and how some of their players have been kind of showing off and how they've been performing in this first week of training camp, those are tough defenses to go out there. So hopefully the Jets defense, being as improved as it is giving them a real good test this summer. So I feel like that's just one big thing we've noticed. And then the other, which to me is just, I mean, a huge story that I don't feel like is getting enough attention, because in the same minute that it happened, Juan Soto got traded. And that, not that baseball is bigger than football, but that was one of the biggest stories that we had been hearing about for a month, and then it finally drops. And then at the same time, they just slide in this punishment to Miami. The Dolphins have been tampering with both head coach Sean Payton and quarterback Tom Brady since 2019, offering Tom Brady a stake in ownership, in which way he would be able to kind of get out of his contract in Tampa, become a part owner of the team, and then just be like, well, I guess I might as well play for you guys. If you guys need a quarterback, I guess I can kind of help out there. I guess I still got it in me. And then Sean Payton, who has been rumored to so many different jobs throughout his time. There was a 4-year stretch where they were thinking about trading him to the Dallas Cowboys. Now it seems like this whole connection of uniting Sean Payton and Brady.
I feel like the Dolphins have been kind of bubbling under, not really under the radar, but just like you always hear whispers of like, oh, Sean Payton would love to go to Miami. He'd love to go to the Dolphins,
It's been there forever, and it really got brought to light because of the Brian Flores situation, where he, of course, accused them of really jeopardizing his job and asking him to tank. And then this stuff comes out on top of it. There are text messages, and it's funny because the Miami Dolphins owner, he is one of the biggest boosters and biggest alums from the University of Michigan. So you understand every team wants Tom Brady, but you understand why they would want to keep that into the ownership group. Tom obviously loves being down in Florida as well too. So they got caught and they got punished. They stripped a 2021 2023 first round pick, and then a 2024 third. I have this written down here wrong. But they got rid of a 2023 first. Now they still have one because they traded away their first round pick, or they traded their third overall pick in 2020 to the San Francisco 49ers so that they could take Trey Lance. So the Dolphins will still have a first round pick. They just won't have their own. First round shrinks to 31 picks. They lose a third round pick the following year. Their owner also received a ban and was fined $1.5 million. Some other executives also banned and fined as well too. So huge story. I mean, that's tampering to what they said was to the extent that the league has never seen before.
Yeah, I think that's kind of one of the more like telling sentences when you read the report or whatever it's called that came out about this. Really just, I remember hearing whenever this broke, last summer or earlier in the year, whenever it was, I remember just being like, there's no way that's true. And we have a buddy, Mike May, who he was always trying to tell me, he's like, no, dude, this was real. I'm like, that was not real. Like, there's no way. And then, I mean, come to find out it was real. I think it's very interesting, especially because like Brady is a free agent next year, right? And was flirting with retirement this year. Like a lot of people thought he was going to try to get out of it and go somewhere else, maybe go to the Dolphins. It's very interesting to think about, like, what if this had all not broken? Like, would things be different, you know? And it's also just like, I don't, it's a neat way for the NFL to kind of be like, oh, remember when Brian Flores said that the owner was telling him to tank games and offering money? Like, that wasn't really real, but we're still going to
We
punish
did
them for
fine.
all this other stuff, you
Yeah.
know? So it's kind of like oh, we'll blame them for this. Sean Payton and Tom Brady probably don't see any repercussions, you
No,
know, and
they
then,
won't.
you know, they lose a first round pick. That's huge, obviously, but it's one of those things where people are going to forget, you know, and whether they were cheating or not, tampering, you know, people are going to kind of move on. And it's to me, it's probably something that happens more than we think.
Well, the thing is that it never came to fruition. So it's like they found
True.
out about it and it never happened. So it's one thing if, heading into this season, the head coach and quarterback for the Miami Dolphins was Sean Payton and Tom Brady. That's when you're like, wait a minute, now you
Yeah.
guys are here. You've been planning this for 3 years and you actually made it work out. To me, I mean, that shuts down any possibility that this would ever
I know.
happen
Could you
in the
imagine if
future.
just like next
There's
year,
no
like
way they can
Brady's
do that,
just signing with
right?
the Dolphins? I don't know. Like, what? I don't know. I don't know.
Because now that they've been caught, they're like, well, we
Right.
got
Well, we've
caught,
been
but
punished.
we're both available. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I know Sean Payton is still, connected to Dallas as well, too. And there's reports that Mike McCarthy, if things don't work out there, he could go and be the head coach. Um, One
If
thing
a
that I
46
go
year
ahead.
old Tom Brady goes to the Dolphins next year, like that would be insane.
Can we also just talk about how we don't know what Tom Brady is going to look like this year? We don't know what he would look like next year, but Sean Payton and Tom Brady, an electric duo. I mean, we obviously the greatest duo of all time is Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, but Bill's a defensive-minded guy. Josh McDaniels is running the show on offense there. Now you're taking Sean Payton, one of the greatest offensive minds of all time, who, in my opinion, really elevated the career of Drew Brees and made him this household name. Brees is talented. I think Sean Payton played a lot more into that. And that's a story for another day. But you take those two together, and if Brady still has something left in the tank, like, that's a fucking crazy duo.
Yeah, yeah. First, I want to say it's probably a bit funny to Jets fans listening, because there's probably a lot of Jets fans that like hate Tom Brady still. It was annoying having to play him, but like I fully easily can just say like he's the GOAT, you know, like he's the best to ever do it. Would you worry with a guy like Sean Payton that he is, this is funny, a funny hypothetical conversation to
Yeah.
be having, but would Brady and Sean Payton, like, would there not be enough control for Brady? Like, I feel like he likes a coach who he can kind of, like with Bruce Arians, he can kind of be like, this is what we're going to do. It took a few games going into his Bucks tenure. I mean, obviously Belichick wasn't like that, but is also a defensive coach. There were always button heads at the end of the day. Always Brady wanted to do more. They wanted to do less. I mean, I guess they were successful enough. Um, but it
I
is just a
think
bit, it's like two greats. Could they fit in the same
I,
room?
I think it's the fact that they are both the style of offense that Peyton ran was a lot of the stuff that made the Patriots elite back in those early 2010s. It was the quick pass game. It was the screens. Like, you think of all the guys that have made themselves prolific wide receivers in New Orleans, most notably, Michael Thomas. They call him slant boy. Like, that is the bread and butter of that offense, is that dink and dunk. And, Brady can still make throws all over the football field. I would think if they've been planning this since 2019, that they like the idea
They're
of
into it.
working together.
Yeah.
So it's funny that it's now like this spoiled opportunity, but there's no way they can go ahead and do that. I just, back to what you were saying earlier, like the punishment. Yeah, they lose their first round pick. That sucks, especially when you've got two of them. You're probably thinking, man, we can really do some damage in the first round. We can take, Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson at 4-10 and just call it a day there.
Be the new Jets.
Exactly. But the money, the ban. The Dolphins are worth billions.
What could it
$1.5 million?
possibly matter that your owner can't be around?
Oh,
Like, what
okay.
owner is doing anything important around the team? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that involves, yeah, exactly. So the owner has an entire team that handles that sort of stuff.
Right.
So the punishment, and I can't be mad and say they didn't punish him enough because nothing ever came out of it. It's not like they snuck this under the rug, made it happen, and then we're finding out, after they're teaming up. But it is just interesting to think. The only thing that I can think of where this really gets shitty for the Dolphins this year just doesn't work out. And Tua, even with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek, are just not getting it done. They're not winning games, and they should have an early pick. And there's a really crowded room of quarterbacks coming up in this draft class. Upwards of 5 or 6 that could go in the first round, kind of like 2018. But then you're hoping that maybe San Francisco isn't that great. But if they go on a run and then all of a sudden you're picking in the 20s like that, that's where it gets really dangerous for Miami. Whereas if you're a Jets fan or any fan of a team in the AFC, you're like, hey, that's one less team that we have to worry about.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a surprising story to see. Yeah. I did not expect that news to drop. And, conveniently it came a day after the Watson news.
Right.
So,
well, and
hey, everyone, talk about this instead.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing that's funny is like back when those rumors about Brady were happening, it was like, okay, maybe he's thinking of San Francisco, but which is weird because San Francisco just already gave all this, love to Trey Lance. They traded up, they gave up draft capital. Are they really going to give up on it there? But then again, it's also Tom Brady. But then it turns out, the report came out about Michigan. And it was like, okay, wait a minute. This is pretty evident what's happening here. And it comes out officially. So just two things, pertaining to the Jets, I guess, in some sort that are
the biggest
pretty big news.
The biggest news of the week. Both of them have ties to the Jets in a way.
Yeah, exactly. In the short term and the long run for the Dolphins situation. But Teddy, let's talk about the biggest news with the Jets this week. Starting off hot here. You unfollowed Le'Veon Bell on Instagram.
On Twitter.
Sorry.
I unfollowed Le'Veon Bell. What year is it? 2022?
Yeah.
Le'Veon was there in 2018, 2019. I had an interesting time, an interesting experience with Le'Veon Bell. I was very, very bought in when we gave him the money. I was so excited the Jets were spending their free agent money instead of just doing nothing with it to get a star. I loved what I saw from him when I saw him play. I loved every time he'd get the ball, he'd make a man miss, but still only get tackled for like a 1-yard gain. I really, really, really just thought that Gase was ruining Le'Veon Bell. And, of course, maybe if he was on a different team, maybe if he had a better team around him, he would have been able to kind of bounce back and not be so bad after his holdout year. But just time and time again, it was shown to me that I was wrong about Le'Veon Bell. And I would always try to stick up for him, and I would always be doing everything. And what would he be doing? He would be dropping music videos and his new rap songs and just doing the most on social media. And so today, I mean, we all know Le'Veon Bell has come out and said that he's not focused on football. He's focused on his rap career. Today, he just went on a rampage. He must have dropped a song or something. He went on a rampage of just retweeting all these people who were hyping him up. So I would be scrolling through Twitter, and then it's like 4 or 5 tweets in a row are like, oh, this Le'Veon Bell shit is really fire or something like that. And I was like, you know what? Like, it has been long enough. There is no need for me to be following Le'Veon Bell anymore. He's not coming back to the Jets. He's not going to bounce back. I don't need him on my fantasy team. So I did it. I cut the cord on Le'Veon, and I'm sorry, but I'm not too invested in his rap career. So if it comes across my page, that's great, but I'm done following him.
It's a tough day. I feel like the two guys that at least in recent history that you've defended the most have been Le'Veon and Sam Darnold. And
yeah, that's true.
Maybe we just shouldn't have you root for guys individually.
I know.
Just root for the Jets as a whole.
I'm a scarred boy, and I think a lot of Jets fans are scarred. I remember, I think we've talked about this before, but on the first podcast I ever recorded with you, which was a guest. I was a guest on Quick Hits, and we talked about
Also coming
Le'Veon
back.
Bell and Jamal Adams. It was coming up to the trade deadline. Neither of them ended up getting dealt, but I remember you asked me, you were like, who's more important to the team, Jamal or Le'Veon?
Yeah,
And I
I do remember
shockingly
that.
said Le'Veon. That was my
Yep.
guy, but it never came to fruition there with him. But I just thought that was important to tell you guys because I was
It's huge. So
I
bought
don't
in.
know. It was kind of like a problem. I couldn't give it up. I still got Robbie Anderson and Denzel Mims on my dynasty team.
I was the Mims, the Robbie Anderson one I get because 2 years ago he had like a really great, and he's had good seasons before.
Oh, yeah.
The Mims one is hilarious to me.
I saw,
especially because I mean you're a Jets fan, you know specifically how many people are ahead of him, and you're just like, fuck it.
no, that's so true. And it's funny because like I don't want to spend time on our podcast talking about Denzel Mims because I feel like it's just like exactly what you just said. Like he's not going to be playing, but we always end up talking about Denzel Mims and it's always my fault. But I saw a tweet today. I saw a tweet today and it was just kind of comparing. It was like Quincy Enunwa's first 2 years with the Jets where he like didn't really do much. Jericho Cotchery's first 2 years with the Jets didn't really do much. And then Denzel Mims' first years with the Jets. All these guys kind of hovering around 350 yards, something like that in their first 2 seasons. So it's not impossible that something happens.
Where is he getting onto the field?
There's no
those other guys. There was nobody really to compete ahead of him. Like there's no spot for him unless
what
guys
if he's
get
the
hurt.
GOAT? Yeah, I don't want guys to get hurt.
Exactly. You want his opportunity to come when, the only guy you could say is like if Corey Davis gets hurt, you're like, well, we'll just put another big wide receiver out there.
Right. Or if Mims is just somehow better than him. But I'm also a big Corey Davis guy. I'm an optimist. It sucks.
All of them. What do you mean? We've been doing this for
every
20
player
weeks.
I'm projecting for an 1,000-yard season.
Every episode is you telling us what players you love and me saying, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Good podcast.
Yeah. So that was not the biggest news. Obviously, the biggest news was, and it came out, we're days late on this because we record in the middle of the week, but the Jets signed Kwon Alexander, months in the making. They bring him in. It was really down to 3 teams from what he told reporters when he first signed. He was considering going back to the Saints where he was just previously, thought about the Giants as well too, but then said the familiarity with Robert Saleh wanted to bring him here to the Jets. Now, since then, I mean, it's the word has been he has been a pleasant addition to the linebacking room, which you would expect. We said he's going to be the starter when he shows up, but it's been nice to hear some positive stuff about the linebackers and this trio that is being formed now. When you're considering, it's not just the fact that you've got Kwon Alexander and Teddy. Why am I name blanking right now?
CJ Mosley.
Yep, CJ Mosley. Geez. It's not just the fact that you have those 2 as your top 2, but now Quincy Williams is not really a number 2 linebacker where you need him to be the second best guy. He can be that third guy. And so now they're talking about this linebacking trio. We knew the signing was probably coming, but what's it been in your eyes the last few days now that he's been a Jet?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just nice. The first thing we're starting with is kind of the one thing we got right from last week. Maybe not the one thing, but
we didn't get.
We definitely called our shots on Kwon Alexander, saying he was going to get signed. And I'm happy they got it done. I'm happy they got it done early. I put out a tweet right when it happened, but it would be one thing to just kind of go through camp, go through 2 weeks, and then say, hey, our linebackers aren't really cutting it. Like, let's get this guy in here. I'd much rather them bring him in the first week of camp, first day of practice or whatever it was, and really just like get him in the system, get him ingrained, realize that, hey, we have a need. This is a guy who could potentially fill that need. And worst case scenario, we just have another veteran in this room for these young guys, and Marcel Harris is still around and he could get playing time. And it's just, maybe it's not Kwon Alexander being out there every snap, obviously that's not what it's going to be, but he's just going to add an element of like a veteran element. He's going to know what he's doing. He's going to know kind of the system. Obviously, it's new, but it's the same. So I just love this. I mean, go back to our first show when I said I think the Jets are going to sign 2 linebackers and they signed none. I really like this signing a lot. And I was kind of holding out hope they'd sign Anthony Barr too. I think he just
Yeah.
signed with the Cowboys.
Yep.
But the linebacker room really seems like the weakest spot to me. So the
Mhm.
fact that they added a guy like Kwon, he looked okay last year. Hopefully he can just keep it up and look decent, just be a
I
solid force.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to go too far into this conversation, but it's got me thinking, like, is linebacker becoming one of those positions on a defense that is just not being valued as much? There are some really good middle linebackers in the league. There's good outside linebackers, but when you think of what's important on a defense, everybody talks about you need a cornerback for wide receivers, you need edge rushers to get to the quarterback, and you need disruptors on the inside. Is it becoming one of those positions where because I just, like you said, those are two good linebackers that are being signed here in the early parts of August, late parts of July. So what do you
Yeah,
think?
I mean, I think it's definite. I think it's definitely like the running back of the
Yeah.
defense in terms of just like teams think they can just kind of plug guys in. Um, there are obviously those guys that are great that kind of break that mold, but at the same
Yep.
time, like what do the best linebackers do? They rush off the edge and they get to the quarterback 90% of the time. Or if they're a great middle linebacker, that's kind of a different mold that's kind of dying. I mean, how many really great, like stud middle linebackers can you think
Yeah.
of off the top of your head? Um, and, the league's moving to a passing league. You think about the Jets. Sure, the Jets run a 4-3, 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, but most of the time the team they're playing is gonna be an 11 personnel or 10 personnel, and you're gonna
Yeah.
have your nickel cornerback out there. So you don't
Right.
even really view a
No.
4-3 as having 3 starting linebackers. You view it as we have 2 starters and 3 starting corners. So yeah, I mean, I definitely think it is kind of that position of the defense, and it's I don't want to ever say it's not important because it is, and especially your middle linebackers calling the plays, calling the shots. There's a lot of things going on out there, but there just seems to be more room for average guys who can get it done as opposed to you need a stud.
Right, exactly. And if the defensive line, like the Jets said all offseason, the coaching staff, if the defensive line can open up holes for the linebackers to make plays,
Right.
then they're saying, well, the defensive line is probably more important there. So it's definitely sort of interesting. But now they've got a couple guys in there, like you said, they're a little bit experienced and can help some of these younger guys serve
And
complementary roles.
just one more note on this, I guess it just kind of came across my head, but it is interesting that so much of this role that Kwon Alexander will probably be filling, that's what a lot of these kind of safety turned linebackers, that's kind of their role,
Yeah.
playing like the weak side linebacker or the outside linebacker. So that's an interesting point too, because it's like, hey, if we think they're going to be passing more, we need linebackers who are going to be able to play in coverage, and maybe taking a safety, making him play linebacker. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
We haven't
Hmm.
really seen any of those guys succeed for the Jets yet. But we have seen guys like that succeed throughout the league with the
Hmm.
49ers, with Robert Saleh. So, you know, just interesting to think about.
Yeah. Keep throwing darts. Shots at the
Definitely.
dartboard. Maybe one of those guys will turn out. And there's a couple of new guys even that I've been reading up on with Jets camp that are kind of transitioning into that role. So it's definitely interesting to see. So yep, Kwon Alexander in there at linebacker. We kind of, like I said, knew it was coming. Just great to see, and great to see that he's getting some good praise in his first few days with the Jets as well too. Few position battles, I guess that some stuff that we were a little bit wrong about.
Yeah, I mean, we had our position battle episode last week. I figured we'd check in because a few of them got answered right away.
Yeah, and we were dead wrong about one of them. And I think there's a caveat with it. We both felt a little frisky seeing Becton taken off the PUP list the day before practice. And we are like, well, Fant's still on there. So let's just go ahead and we're gonna say Becton's gonna take that left tackle spot. The next morning, Fan is
Right.
taken off the PUP, and it's like, well, okay, yeah, I guess that does it there. So we were a little bit wrong on that. A
We
little bit of a
both also
caveat.
made our predictions that Becton would be left because of all this, but then we ended the segment with who knows, we could just start Monday or Tuesday morning and they're like, oh, he's going to play right. And
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
exactly what happened. He went out there. They said, hey, Fant's going to be left. Makai's going to be right. Salah said that. he was misquoted a few times saying Makai's left tackle days aren't done. And a lot
Yeah.
of people were quoting him as saying his left tackle days are done. That's not necessarily true. But going into the season, I mean, this isn't a thing they're going to be looking at. This isn't a thing they're playing with. It's AVT's right guard, Becton is right tackle, and then Laken Tomlinson's left guard, George Fant is left tackle. I mean, when you look at that line, how does that make you feel? I mean, this is kind of way back when we did our first projecting starters. This is exactly how you had it. I mean, this is kind of what the Jets said they were going to do, and I wouldn't really buy in, but it's got to feel good having all those guys out there practicing.
It should be one of the best offensive lines in football, just considering the fact that you have two very sturdy options on the left side protecting Zach Wilson's blind side. And it's not just the fact that, you've got Fant there, who had a great year last year and is an experienced tackle that really seems like he's found his groove here with the Jets, but you also add in a physical, mean Pro Bowl left guard now. And, there were some thoughts, okay, are you going to move him to the right side? But no, we're just going to keep the vets together here. We're going to keep the high ceiling guys on the right side. AVT, like you said, I believe, I think you said an episode or two ago that you think he's got Pro Bowl, potential, at least this season. I also would agree with that. Like, he's talented enough where that could be the case. And then Becton playing on the right side, I mean, he was fantastic his rookie season on the left side. So if he's healthy and he's in shape, look, McGovern might not be the best center in the world, but when you've got those four guys around him, sometimes it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, and McGovern is better than we give him credit for a lot of the times. Yeah. And when you're around good players, I do just want to talk about Makai for a bit, because it has been a journey with this man, and it's not over yet. We got we got 4 weeks left of camp. We got the whole season to get through, blah, blah, blah. But all off season, all throughout last year, it's just been unknown. It's been, is he healthy or is he still on his way back from the injury? And 40 days before camp, reports coming out, he's overweight. He's not looking good. The Jets aren't happy with what they're seeing. And then, kind of everything that's coming out is just negative, and you just worry. I mean, we said it over and over again. It's once we see him out on the practice field practicing, that's when we will be satisfied. And that's when we'll say, okay, I can at least take some type of deep breath. And so the fact that we're a week in, he's been out there since day one, taken off the PUP list before practice even starts, like, it's best case scenario. It's what we kept talking about throughout the offseason was hopefully he's just out there at training camp and he's not off working on the side, so that's just awesome. I'm so happy to see him out there. So happy to see that, like, everyone thinks he's looking good. Fant, is still obviously working back from his injury. I think it's a foot injury. That could be wrong, but hopefully he'll be back soon. And I mean, this line, I mean, you said it could be one of the best in the league. It just all comes down to health. And I'll just also throw in Max Mitchell kind of running around, hyping up the crowd on one of those first days. Maybe he's a dog. Maybe if we do get an injury, he can step in and be all right.
Swing tackle.
Yeah.
Put him in there as a swing tackle.
So I'm excited about this line, man. I'm excited about this run game. I'm excited about Breece Hall. I'm just the ability to run the ball, I think, is going to be huge for the Jets this year. Just taking pressure off Zach Wilson, not needing him to be a hero to win games. And if we can just actually have a run game that helps us just sustain drive after drive after drive, I mean, that's a huge key in winning football games.
One of there's a lot of parallels to me when I look at the team that I root for and enjoy watching, and that's the Colts, and where the Jets are now is, I watched for not only Peyton Manning's entire, end of his career, but also the beginning parts of Andrew Luck's career. And honestly, the entire part of his, it was the full thing for him as well, too. Just terrible offensive lines, just crushing any chance of offensive success. Now the quarterbacks made up for it because they were otherworldly. Peyton Manning had a very successful career with the Colts. Andrew Luck, was one game away from the Super Bowl, made the playoffs every year that he was, a full season starter. Those guys can make up for it, but we also destroyed that man's career because we could not protect him. But once you start to see, you draft Ryan Kelly at center and he's solid. Then you go Quentin Nelson at 6 and you get him. Braden Smith, Pro Bowl right tackle in the second round. You got Costanzo. Then you plug in Blake Lewinsky at right guard. Once you see the pieces finally come together and you're like, holy fuck, we can actually keep our quarterback upright. We can actually run the football. It changes the complexion of a team 1,000%. That sets the tone, that offensive line. So for the Jets, likewise, we were just talking about Le'Veon Bell. How much easier would his life have been if he had had a great offensive line in New York? Same for Sam Darnold in his early parts of his career. The Jets have been a miserable offensive line for so long now. If everybody is healthy to start off the season, this line should be one of the best in the league.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So very exciting. No injuries. They've been good.
I know. I guess that's what we're going to get into next.
Yeah, well, before we do other position battles, Sauce rotating in with the ones too.
Oh,
give me your thoughts on that one.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's something we talked about, how he probably wouldn't start as a starter. We wanted to just see how long it took to see him get that work. And, it didn't take long at all. Within the first couple of days, he's rotating in with the ones. Bryce Hall talked a little bit about their battle. I say that in quotation marks, but Bryce Hall, like we've said, he deserves every right to compete for a job. Yeah. Whether it's with Sauce, whether it's with DJ Reed, he's earned every right. But I mean, everything I've seen, everything I've heard, Sauce looks great. Sauce looks like the real deal, and has been having a great camp so far, even as a rookie. So I don't think it's going to be long before he's not rotating anymore.
It's the traditional, if you're a pardon my take guy and you watch, listen to the Mount Rushmores of football cliches earlier this week. It's like one of the biggest ones is like, he's got to earn his spot. The rookie's got to earn his spot. And everybody does it across the league, especially with quarterbacks, but other positions as well too. Sauce is the most talented cornerback on this football team. They're just kind of making him earn it the hard way. So, which is, it pays off well. You get your guy working in there, you get him motivated and he earns it. And then he's the starting cornerback. So,
Love seeing him and Elijah Moore get to go against each other every day too. I mean, that's just
great.
Hopefully these guys can burst on the scene, because I don't know. I mean, Elijah Moore, he's been looking great. Had that 70-yard bomb, had that one-handed catch from Flacco. I know you guys saw the highlights.
Oh yeah, and it's DJ Bieniemy's least favorite saying. It's iron sharpens iron. That's his least favorite saying.
Really?
Oh my god,
I like Twitter, that saying.
Anytime somebody says it, they tag him in it, and he's just like, "Fuck you."
That's so funny.
So those two guys going against each other, great to see. You mentioned the health a little bit earlier. Tevin Coleman, who was out with an illness, wasn't really like a huge injury. He came back into practice. The big one. Off the PUP list, Jeremy Ruckert, rookie tight end, who I'm excited to see experiment a little bit with, because they've been talking about his potential as a fullback guy. It's a crowded tight end room. So, but it's nice to see, the New York kid ready to go.
Yeah, I'd love to see if they could work him onto the field, and if he could really embrace that fullback role and succeed, that would be awesome. And it would just be a great way for him to kind of jumpstart his career. Obviously it's going to be hard to be getting reps at tight end when you have two guys who the Jets went out and signed in free agency ahead of you. But if he can just work his way on the field as that fullback role, opens up a roster spot for him. It kind of makes things easier when you're thinking about, can we keep all three of these guys on the active roster? And it's an excuse to get your third round pick on the field. So I'm into it.
Yeah, I like it too. Obviously, he has a very specific skill set. It's trying to, I guess, round him into a more complete tight end. But tight ends are one of the longer developing position groups, I'd say, in the game. So I'm not expecting anything super soon, but hopefully he can be one of those guys that really takes it a little bit later on. Some other news. A little bit of, I guess, not injuries, but just a couple of hiccups there. Vinny Curry, small hamstring injury, expected to be back next week. Michael Carter had a small ankle injury, was listed as day-to-day, but it seemed like he was a full participant in Wednesday's practice. So it seems like he's even just fine to go.
Yeah. I mean, we've been lucky with these injuries, and obviously we're 1 week in. So far, so good. But it is, this is kind of just the first ones we're seeing nothing serious yet. Vinny Curry should be back. Michael Carter's already back. But you know, the like I said at the beginning, injuries are kind of what I am mostly thinking about throughout training camp. I just want to try to avoid the injuries, um, get to the season healthy with our guys that we want to see. I mean, we all were scarred with what happened last year with Carl Lawson. It's just so heartbreaking to be excited for a guy and then you don't get to see him for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or a year. You know, that's just like my least favorite part of football. So, you know, just
Yeah.
important to keep our eye on these things, but so far so good.
So far, so good. And as you mentioned just there with Lawson, looks fantastic. I mean,
Yeah.
physically, like he looks like a freak show. Right now they're playing him at about less than half of the reps. But they've told us about this. They're going to really slow play and make sure that week one he is ready and on the football field.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, good to hear. Good to hear they're kind of being safe with him. We've talked about it, they're going to be safe with everyone, but you know, good to hear. It's same story as last year with him, just dominating. It
Yeah.
seems.
Yep, exactly. And then two last things, of course, with the Jets, specifically with news and notes. Zach Wilson, they're calling it an up and down start to training camp, which I would assume everybody is up and down to start training camp. It's everybody is playing football for the first time on a consistent basis in months. NFL Rumors put out that post today that people are saying Joe Flacco is outperforming Zach Wilson in training camp. And it's like, okay, maybe the vet that's been around for 15 years has a leg
Right.
up on a guy who's in year two. But what are your thoughts on all of it?
It's well, first of all, Zach Wilson, yeah, he's been up and down. The last 2 days have been pretty solid for everything you're hearing.
Up. Yeah.
Arrow pointing up. You know, hopefully, obviously training camp isn't all that matters, but you just want to see like him succeeding at any moment. You know, it's obviously he could have a great training camp and go out and be bad. He could have a bad training camp, go out and be great. But you just hope that you want to see him just grasping the offense, connecting with these guys, you know, having some type of bond and relationship with all his receivers and weapons. But yeah, I mean the Joe Flacco thing, it's like no shit. I mean, he's 37. He's been playing in the league forever. Yeah. He won a Super Bowl. Like he knows exactly what he's doing. Like he is built to dominate training camp, in my opinion. Obviously, we want to see our hopeful, you know, future quarterback be the best quarterback in camp. I'm sure he will be. He has the highest ceiling. I'm sure Flacco couldn't make that 70-yard throw off his back foot to Elijah Moore, you know.
Yep.
But I got no hate for Flacco, man. He's a baller.
He's great. He's been around. He knows his stuff. It seems like the Jets love him. Zach Wilson loves him. Robert Saleh loves him, saying, today that, he thinks Joe Flacco could be a starter in this league, which I don't know if anybody, I don't know. No, not for a full 17 game season. I think you can come out there and you can design some stuff up for him. But once teams, I think, figure it out, I don't know if I could say confidently that over the course of 17
would
games,
you want him over Geno Smith or Drew Lock?
Oh.
Geno Smith's about to win that job. What's he, 35?
Yeah, that's wow.
Is there a worse starter in the league than that situation?
No, that's easily the worst.
Yeah, I agree.
Flacco isn't going to lose you games. Geno's not going to lose you games. Drew Lock will lose
Geno could lose you games.
He could, and so could Flacco. Don't get me wrong, but I think that if you're putting Joe Flacco in Seattle and you're just going to run the football all day and do some dink and dunk stuff with DK Metcalf, I think you could get by with him. I would.
If you look at his starts over the past 2 years, I mean, they're not that bad. His starts have been kind of the Jets' best games. So
am I really?
Dude, Flacco's the truth. He's elite.
I'm amped.
Geno, just to talk about a former Jet here for a second. Geno seems to be dominating Drew Lock throughout camp. He's taking all the reps basically with the ones. I think Pete Carroll said he's like the guy as of right now, like he's winning. So, we could get a Geno year, maybe not a full year. We could get a Geno beginning to the season.
but even then, it's like are you gonna swap him out for Drew Lock? How much better is that gonna?
Does
It
Jimmy
truly
G
is
make
just
his way
like
to the Seahawks somehow?
you have to convince me that Seattle is actually going to give up something valuable, because I think San Francisco looks at Seattle and says, you're a division rival. Why are we just going to give you your best starting quarterback when we have to play you twice? Like, you got to fork something up.
True, but if they can't get a deal done and cut him, why not trade him to Seattle and get a fifth?
Yeah, no, that's
Something like
true. At the end
that.
of the day, if you're getting an offer and if he's going to sign there anyways, maybe. No, that's a good point. God, that quarterback situation is so disgusting.
I know it's fun talking about all the other shenanigans going on in the
Yeah.
league.
Yeah. My thoughts on the Zach Wilson up and down is exactly what you said. He's a young quarterback. He's going to have better days than others. I think that there are days where, the defense as a whole, it performs much better than the offense. So those days kind of coincide. Maybe the offensive line isn't helping him out. The wide receivers aren't. I don't think it's all got to be on Zach. Now, he's had some bad turnovers and some errant throws, but that's going to be part of his game. It still is, the beginning of the season, that's going to be him. He's going to have those moments, and it takes guys a really long time to make that adjustment.
So you
Especially
don't think Sal is starting a QB competition?
No, I do not
No.
believe so. I don't think there's a
All
QB
right.
competition.
Me neither.
Yeah. The only thing with Zach Wilson left is I've been sad we haven't gotten anything out of the mom side. And I'm not saying that I'm expecting actual reporters to go and ask Zach Wilson what his business has been like in the off season with his mom's friend, but you would assume there would be some. Stephen Che is down in Tampa Bay Buccaneers practices. Billy Football is in Jets practices. Like, we're getting nothing out of this. What's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, there was the question. There's been all the questions about, like, do you see what people say on social media? Like, blah blah blah.
Right.
They've like kind of hinted at it. I think Zach, the most he's ever addressed anything is just saying, like, that was crazy. There's nothing really to say. Like, I don't know.
He did delete his social media today, though. I'd say that was a big Sports
Well,
Illustrated post on Instagram.
he said he deletes it for the season. He doesn't have the apps on his phone, and he has his team kind of runs his social media accounts. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Which is good. I'm glad he's not reading all our stupid tweets and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You can't expect real reporters to still be talking about this now that actual football's begun.
No.
But did you see some kid got a MILF Hunter?
I saw that
shirt
so
and
many guys
was getting it signed by everyone today. Yeah, that was funny.
Which is the best. Teddy, before we finish things off, you threw a surprise segment at me. Want to take me through this?
Yeah. So it's training camp. It's kind of that time of year where you try to muck through the mud, I guess, and try to pick out what actually matters and what doesn't. But so I figured we could do this throughout the course of training camp, just who's got you hyped. It's 1 week in, obviously everyone is getting that hype right now. You see videos all over the league of different players. Oh, this guy looks great. This guy looks great. Isaiah McKenzie's like the best receiver in the league, according to Bills fans. Things like that. But just looking at Jets camp 1 week in, who's got you hyped? Who are you excited to see and are also buying into going into the season? Do you have a pick? Do you want me to go first? I have a few.
I have a pick, but I've been talking about him all off season, so I can't say that I'm gonna throw you any loops here.
Just go for it, because we didn't talk about him a ton.
Jacob Martin.
Oh, okay.
I've been seeing so much that coming off the edge, he's been getting constant pressure against these tackles, and I know he's got a limited role, but I mean, he is going to be great getting to the quarterback this year. And so he's the guy. Every time I keep seeing stuff about him and the coaches are raving. So that's going to be my first pick.
I did not think you were going to pick him, but Jacob Martin, I love that.
I'll think of some others while you get to your list, but that's the one that comes to the top of my head.
No, that's all right. I was only going for a one pick type of guy. So that's
Perfect.
great.
Jacob Martin gets it.
Yeah. Love to hear that. And hopefully, I mean, if he has a role, that would be awesome. Yeah. My guy, I'm going to go more basic. I kind of thought we'd be up between the two most basic guys. I guess there's a third. But I'm just going to go with Elijah Moore.
Yeah.
I think we've kind of been predicting like he's going to be the guy this year. Obviously, we take Garrett at 10, but Elijah Moore. What I love about Elijah Moore is a lot of what our Jets fandom has been the past few years is just hoping like, hopefully this guy can break out. Hopefully this guy can break out. Obviously, Elijah Moore, got hurt last year, didn't have the best beginning of the season. But at the end of the day, we saw Elijah Moore ball last year. Like Elijah Moore proved to every single one of us, I can play in the league. I can be an effective player in the league. I can be a great receiver in the league. And that's kind of how I view it. And I don't want to be surprised by Elijah Moore. I just want him to go out and do what we've seen him do and just kind of pick up where he left off before he got injured last year. So just to be able to see like 1 week through training camp, all the reports coming out today and yesterday that he's the clear number one, he's the best receiver out there, and just kind of all the highlights that we've seen. Obviously, the highlights in training camp don't tell the full story, but you look at that Zach Wilson pro day throw reenactment, just throwing a bomb to Elijah Moore, who either DJ Reed just got beat or didn't know the coverage, but Elijah Moore was nowhere close to the next cornerback guarding him. And you look at that one-handed catch from Flacco, and it's just, I love to just see that he's doing well. He's got me hyped up going into the season. I really think he's going to ball. I think we get that 1,000-yard receiver this year. So yeah, Elijah Moore's got me hyped.
Exciting. Yeah. I the 1,000-yard one, like I know we talked about props a couple weeks ago and he was at 850. Like I'm just keep hammering it because he's going to go over. But cool. Yeah. I mean, he's been stealing the show there at Jets camp. Yeah. Who was the other one that you were going to throw in there?
Honorable mention was just Sauce Gardner, just because I'm just hyped that he's kind of coming in right away, being his long, lanky self. Every rep I probably only get to see the good ones on Twitter, but every rep I've seen of him, he looks locked down. Yeah. And then the other one, I mean, Mekhi Becton should have us all hyped just being out there.
You see him toss over his coach today? Oh my God.
I didn't.
You didn't? Oh my God, dude. He bodies one arm to the what's the pads? What's the coach hold? Is it just a pad? It's just a pad. Didn't know if they had a name for it. And dude just falls on his ass. It was hilarious.
That's awesome.
Becton was destroying it. Yeah. Go look at that. Awesome. Well, good. I like that. I like doing that through camp. Who's got your hype? We'll keep that going.
Who we buying into?
I like it. Awesome. Well, cool, Teddy. Well, look at that. We are just about an hour in here. So I think that's a beautiful time for us to wrap up for this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening to Chasing 69. A New York Jet. You said it earlier in the show, so Quick Hits
was a great name for a podcast, man.
And while I'm here, I'm also bringing that back next Monday with the Jets articles. Yeah. So we're going full NFL mode now. I've got it all fun and excited and ready to go. But thank you guys so much for listening to Chasing 69, a New York Jets podcast. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at NYJ_chasing69, as with the YouTube page. Teddy at Teddy Huncho. I'm at Blake Andrew Pace. Look forward to Monday as well too. Sports Illustrated for the Jets have some stuff going out there. Probably going to do about 3-4 articles a week, maybe more if needed when we head into the season. So really excited, and there's just stuff to talk about. I was talking with Max Goodman, who runs the site over there today. And he was like, yeah, I'm still focused on the Yankees until that World Series thing is done. So really going to need some extra help into the season. So looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to being back here next week with you, Teddy, when's the date of the first preseason game? We're coming up on that, aren't we? Because I know we've got Hall of Fame
Friday. So it's the
12th.
12th. Yeah. I believe that's your birthday.
It is my birthday. 25.
Yeah. Wow. Yes. Well, that'll be great. You'll be in Cortland for it, correct?
I will that weekend. Yes, I will be in good old Cortland, New York. Yep. Got my godson's christening.
Wow.
Or baptism.
Godfather.
Godfather duties.
Congratulations, Unc.
Yeah, thank you, Unc Shine. Thank you guys so much for listening to Chase 69. We'll talk to you next week. Peace.